Any questions, comments, or anything? So y'all just came to hear again and not to bring. Okay. So let me do this before I get down to business here. Some of you know I have an amazing producer, set by God, truly set by God. And God sent him here from the woods. He is a deer killer, animal hunting, house building, dirt toting, growing cotton kind of a guy. And so he came and he was a producer for a while and did just a beyond amazing job. And now because of his family and his family old, and other stuff, he land and all that stuff, he had to go back home. And so what I want him to do, he doesn't know it yet, he hates this kind of stuff, literally hate it. He's gonna come up and talk to you guys for about 10 or 15 minutes, you guys can hear him to say goodbye, and then take some questions, whatever. I introduced to some of you for the first time Sean, my producer, one of the experts on the Jesse Lee Peterson Show. And then that's a sorry applause.
Good enough for me.
Like if we have to. Should I have him sit down so he can be seen on camera? Okay. For about 10 or 15 minutes, Sean. I'll let you know when.
All righty. Hello.
I'll put this here so you don't look at my pad.
All right. Well, I'm very grateful for...
This Friday is last day.
Yeah, I am heading back to New Jersey. That's where I'm from originally, northern Jersey. Dirty Jersey, as some people will call it. Just really grateful for this opportunity. I didn't know what to expect coming out here. I definitely didn't expect having a job like this, like while growing up. It wasn't even in my vision. Yeah, for various reasons, I gotta head back home, and I've learned a lot from the crew and from all of you. Growing up, I always really wanted an insight into human experience and what people are going through. And between the calls on the show and coming to church and the men's forum, I got pretty much exactly that. So I'm just really grateful. I know it was short. Coming out here, I didn't know whether I was going to stay 10 days or 10 years or anything like that, but it was awesome. When I first started listening to Jesse, I stopped listening to everyone else who I had been listening to, various names who you would recognize, and something about the way he spoke about, Christianity and family and everything just rang true. Immediately, I stopped listening to everybody else. And I think, referring to God as the Father is a big part of it. And that linking up with the whole order just brought so much clarity for me on so many different things. I started finally understanding what happened to me. And the biblical question I came up with was, can you ever really know another person? And I thought about that because I was thinking about my parents, and I was like, before I was born, they did things that I'll just never know. Even after I was born, they just have been through things that I'll never know about. And I know we're not our experiences, but still, even just their spiritual position in life is just something I just feel like I don't have access. And that's true of everybody I've ever met, So that's what led me to that biblical question. And yeah, I'm still overcoming. Obviously, I've gotten a lot better at catching the thoughts and catching that voice in my head that tells me to worry. But I've gotten definitely just glimpses that it's that whole perfect peace is absolutely, positively possible. Perfect peace, and that's not something. Even my dad, actually, when I was talking to him last time I was back home, he said, he's a wild guy. He's been through a lot. He's been through a lot of different He said several lifetimes in one lifetime. And he was like, I never considered that perfect peace was possible on earth, like while we live. He just never was told that. He never thought of that as a possibility growing up. And so, it's just, it's special to me to be able to come out here and do something that meant a lot to me, and then have people back home respond to it too, and find out what they think about the whole message. And oh my God, I didn't even see you sitting there.
Because I'm so black.
Blended in. It's like appeared.
There's no light on me.
But yeah, I've been through, definitely some ups and downs. By the time I was 18, I felt like I had been through it all. Like I felt like I had been through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and at 18. And at that point, I was a late bloomer as far as let's say rebellion and partying a little bit. I didn't have my first beer until I was 18. So that's a late bloomer from where I come
beer?
from. Yeah.
Did you say beer?
Yeah, I settled on beer.
Listening.
Yeah, I settled on beer. But yeah, so at 18, I really felt like I had been through all the ups and downs. I was like, what more is there than this, And then I went to college, and for 4 years, and the first 2 years of college, I found out that there were higher highs than I thought were possible, and lower lows that I thought were possible. You go to college, you rebel, you get into all types of different crazy stuff. Not you, me. I'm talking about me. And then the second 2 years of college, I lived in a studio apartment by myself, and I got my degree and didn't go out, didn't talk to anybody. And then after college, I went to New York City to work backstage on Broadway shows. And couple things that Jesse said right off the bat that just stuck with me. He said, we are not the sum of all of our highs and lows. We're more than that. That was big. And he said, when you love other people, you let them suffer, which was mind-blowing at the time. When I first heard that, I was like, no one else says that. You don't hear that at other churches. You don't hear that from your parents. And it's so true. It's just so true. And so one of the biggest things I learned was that, you really can't convince people of other things. And the more you try to do that, the more defensive they'll actually get, and you're actually making the situation worse. Like Jesse says, God will give you the right words at the right time. If it's meant to be for you to change their mind on things, he'll give you the right words. But if you try to force it, you're actually making the situation worse. So if you have advice for somebody else, and you give them that advice and you point them in the right direction, if they reject it, anything more you say after they reject it is really making the situation worse, because they will hold on to it just for the ego feeling of them being right. So I dealt with that a bunch, with trying to change other people. But once you move on from that, things get a lot better. And there was something else I wanted to mention. I just thought of it a second ago that I learned. And it has something to do with letting go. And it's hard to put into words, but I called into Nick's show a while back, and I tried to put it into words, and I'm still trying to, and it's difficult, but I'm starting to see that I can't help myself, and it's something like this. If you, I've done some things around the office. I've done some painting and moving around of furniture and stuff, and I'm starting to see that it's not even a decision. If you see something is possible and you see that it can be done, there's a point at which you then see that you can't help yourself and it's going to happen. It's not a choice anymore. You can go back, you can do the pros and cons. Should I do A? Should I do B? But for me, I'm starting to notice when that switch happens where I just know that this is what I'm going to do. It was the same with coming out here. as soon as I applied for the job and Jesse called me and said, yeah, it's open and we'd like to have you. It wasn't even a decision. It was like, oh, okay, I'm driving out to California now. It wasn't. I wasn't going back and forth with it. And noticing that has really helped because it's prevented me from judging myself. It's prevented me from thinking about things in terms of right and wrong. It's more just thinking about, not even thinking about it. It's more just noticing. You see what's about to happen. You see what kind of choice you're about to make, and then you just can't help yourself. You find yourself doing that thing. And man, I wouldn't even be able to, recognize, like, if I were able to talk to 18-year-old me and say the things that I'm saying now, he would be like, what are you talking about? Like, what? He would completely misunderstand me or just completely not understand me at all. And that's pretty wild to think about, because now I look back at my past and I'm, like you say, it almost doesn't seem real, But we say, Jesse says we're all pretty much on the same page. We're all in the same boat. Everyone's going through the same thing. And from what I've experienced, it's tough to put your finger on what that thing is. Like if you were to say, oh yeah, everyone is going through the same thing, what is that thing that everyone's going through? Jesse calls it the fallen state. We're all in a fallen state, right? Everyone needs to return to the Father. Everyone needs to overcome. And another way of putting it for me is that everyone's going through the same thing, in that everyone is lost in their thoughts. Everyone's believing their thoughts. Everyone who calls into the show, everyone who shares at church or the forums, the common thread that I see is that everyone is just believing their thoughts, and it gets you into all sorts of different trouble. But like I said on the show the other day, if you say that you believe in God, if you have faith, if you trust God, then there really is no excuse. Like, there's no reason to believe a thought ever. They're lies. They take you up. They take you down. So if you say you believe in God, you say you trust God, then there's really no reason to believe the thoughts of regret or the thoughts of loneliness or the thoughts of I'll never have enough of this, that, or the other thing, or I'm not as good as him. As soon as you believe one, then you're admitting that you don't trust God. And I'm not saying I don't do that. I certainly do. I'm getting better at catching them. But another thing that I really appreciate is, like, hearing the different shows from the guys, Nick, James, and Joel. And if, let's say, something happens in the news and they all cover it, they all cover the same thing, to hear them all, it's not even, like, they are different perspectives, but just to hear the different tones of each person, the different, like, speech patterns and the different tones and the different sense of humor in some cases and the different insights, like, we have a, sort of a running joke that sometimes we give Bond answers, like stock Bond answers, like everyone gives the same answer. But it's really not, I haven't found that to be the case, really, because even if you do say the same thing, you say it in just a slightly subtle different ways that tell you things about what they're really trying to say. And it's just mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing to see different people do the same things with it. And it's just, to watch other people grow, and it's amazing to see. I guess we could, anyone have any questions so far that I can answer?
Yeah, man. You brought some unique style to the show.
Thanks.
I'm kind of cultured and stuff. Do you think that was necessary, or is it going to need that after?
I mean, I'm really not too worried about it, whoever, I always thought of my job as trying to bring the best out of Jesse. Whatever I did was aimed toward that, towards bringing the best out of him. And, he's going to bring the best out of himself no matter what is put in front of him. You know what I mean? And actually, that was another thing I was just going to bring up, is that something I still don't quite understand is, obviously, I was listening to Jesse for 3 years before I got here, 2 or 3 years before I even got here. So I've heard him say the same phrase. Let's just say, I don't know. All thoughts are all eyes all the time. I've heard him say that probably 1,000 times, maybe 2,000 times. But sometimes if I'm in the men's forum, especially in person, you know what I mean? If I'm in the men's forum and hearing other people talk about it, and then I'll hear him say it in a different way or a different tone, and on the 1,000th time of hearing him say it, it'll click for me in a different way than it has ever before. Maybe because I'm in a different place, But that's pretty bizarre to me, that you can hear someone say something 1,000 times. Because I know some of you, I don't know, but I assume some of you here in church, like I do sometimes, I'll hear him say this, the same phrase, and I'll go I've heard it 1,000 times. But then 1,001, it hits me differently, and I go, oh, that's what that means. I thought I knew what that meant, but now I know that's what that means.
Sometimes you say some things, and he seems completely out of it.
Yeah, and something I noticed about Jesse versus myself, I still will speak on things that I don't know anything about. You know what I mean? Jesse doesn't do that. Jesse, when he comments on things, he speaks from a place where he's been through. He won't talk about things he doesn't know about, and that's rare to see. It's rare to see someone who won't talk about things that they don't know about. If he talks about things he knows for sure to be true, that he's been through, that he's seen, and if he hasn't, he won't touch it. So most people will just make something up, including myself. But anybody else? Yeah.
So I just want to say, Sean, you've made such a meaningful contribution in a short period of time. So what I'm about to say next is definitely indicative of the fact that I need to overcome. But in my opinion, I feel like you need to be a voice for this culture. And my question to you is, and I know you probably haven't thought, well, I'm not going to, all thoughts are all lies all the time. Have you thought about, is there a way that you could do something remotely, or have you thought about doing your own thing? No.
No,
Okay.
I haven't. And I'll be honest, I don't feel any shame about that or anything. I have so many things to work on in myself, you know what I mean? And part of my, look, there's so many practical reasons for me heading back east, but one of the more, I don't know, abstract spiritual reasons is because I firmly believe that if more people focused more locally as possible in their own town, in their own household, in their own body and overcoming, it would be a better place, you know what I mean? So I've shared a lot about myself and a lot about what I've found and certain insights, but I really got to focus on myself, I really do.
I understand.
And that's enough for me. I don't feel shame about doing that and not trying to help other people.
Yeah, I agree, and you shouldn't. The last thing I want to mention is I appreciate you bringing up that segment. Remember on Edgar Allan Poe? Was it Edgar Allan Poe? Where you all had that discussion on the writer?
It might have been Ernest Hemingway.
Oh, Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah, it might have been Ernest Hemingway.
That's
yeah.
it. Thanks to you, I resurrected that book, and I read it, and it's like a book of short stories. I read it in such a different way.
Right.
And it so relates in many ways to exactly what I'm here doing. So
Yep.
thank you for all of that. Thank you
Yeah.
for your contribution, and I wish you well.
Thank you very much. Now, one more thing about Ernest Hemingway that I didn't get in too deeply on the show, but is so important, is how he defined what it meant to write in a masculine voice. You know, he doesn't write about it, long passages about his feelings and about thinking about the future and the past. It's just all present moment. Here's what happens. Bing, bang, boom. Nouns, very few adjectives, nouns, verbs, and dialogue, you know. And he managed to make that deep enough. They call it the iceberg theory. So what you see on the page is only like an eighth of what the meaning is behind it. So through various, you know, musical ways in which he deals with just nouns, verbs, and dialogue, you get, you know, they say that you only get out of a novel, same true in life, I guess, but you only get out of a novel what you bring to a novel, you know? You only get out of a reading what you bring to the reading. So if you read like with your brain like on fire and you ask questions and you're like really engaged, that's how much you're gonna get out of it. And so he sort of like forces that out of people. And people don't like it because they don't want to do the work, you know? Yeah. Yeah, and me and the gentleman over there were, before church, we're talking about how feminine churches have become, not just in allowing, you know, female preachers, but in the touching each other and singing and dancing. It's all very feminine. And it's much more, in my opinion, it's much more masculine to deal with things within yourself. Keep it local and don't talk about it. That's what fathers used to do. You just keep it local and you don't talk about it. Go ahead.
Are you talking about a specific book with the
Ernest Hemingway?
Yeah.
All of his writing and the style is so consistent. Like you could pick up any of his books, read a paragraph, and know it's him. And so I wouldn't want to mention any specific book, but any of it, really. Raymond? I think I'm about past time, so we'll do the last question.
Pardon me, it was you that brought up the biblical question. Can we know other people?
Yeah, can you ever really know another person?
Yes. Well, I'd have a perfectly good answer for that, but I probably will save it until Jesse comes.
All right. And here he is.
Hold on to that.
Okay.
Oh, amazing. You about to cry, Daryl? Daryl about to cry.
Don't cry for me. I'll be calling into your show every day.
We're going to be seeing a lot of them on the show this week since he's leaving. You want to go away now or what?
Yes. Run home like Forrest Gump.
Amazing.